I want to talk with you today about a particular word that relates to the way that narcissists treat you, and it's the word brainwashing. Now, that's a pretty strong word, isn't it? We tend to think of brainwashing as something that happens in spy movies and things like that. One of the things a narcissist wants you to do is to lose confidence in who you are. They want to do the thinking on your behalf, and they want to make sure that you're probably wrong in what you have to say and you're wrong in your approach towards life, and they want to take over the way that you think. And so the way they do that is through brainwashing. Now, let's get a pretty easy definition of brainwashing. Basically, when we talk about someone who brainwashes, we're talking about reducing your ability to think independently. They want you to filter your thoughts and your opinions through them. It's an attempt to alter your opinions or your core beliefs or your core values. They want to make sure that you go along with what they say is proper and right. And basically, it's a forced conformity. They want to make sure that you've lost your sense of independence in who you are, and you have to conform to who they are. Does that sound very familiar? And I've talked with so many people who have lived with somebody with this strong narcissistic bent, and because of the strong power and manipulation and control and sense of dominance and superiority they have, these people will say, I feel like during my time with that person, I lost sight of who I am. And the narcissist is over there thinking, yeah, that's kind of my game plan. That's my point. So I want to zero in on 9 different ways that a narcissist may attempt to brainwash you. And as you're aware of these 9 different techniques that they use, I'm hoping that you can learn how to pull away from the clutches that they may have over you. Now, one of the first things that they'll do, and this would come as no surprise when you think about it, is the narcissist wants, this is number 1, they want to remove you from the most influential people in your life. Now, many times they'll actually do it by means of physical isolation. It's just like, we're going to stop going out with the people that you care most about, whether it's your family or friends or associates, and I just want you to hang out with me and my people. And so there's a sense of isolation. But basically, it's their way of saying, you know, all of these other people that you've had in your life, we don't need them. You need me. You need me to be your primary person. And so it's very important for them to go into that isolation direction with you. And then a primary thing that they'll do is they'll speak in very ideal terms about who they are and where they've come from. They may say things like, well, I've been around some pretty important people, or the folks who have helped me along the way they're just irrefutable. They're the best, and I'm the best. And so they don't like to talk about any kind of negatives that they've had. They idealize who they are, and if they do have some problems that are a part of their past, or they've had some rejection, then what they'll do is they'll talk about how they've done a superb job of overcoming it. So one way or another, they speak of themselves in very idealized terms. And of course, the implication is, how can you possibly question me? Look at how smart I am, or look at how much of an insider path that I have to understanding life. And then a third technique that's part of their brainwashing is they'll minimize your positives. So they idealize themselves and they minimize who you are in your past. For example, they may say something like, well, your parents, the more I'm around them, the more they just seem like there's something really wrong there. Or with your friends, they may say, they may not, but they're a lot of losers, and you don't need to be around people that act in the way that they do. I don't like what happens when they're around. And then with respect to you, the implication may be, you think that you're all that, but as I observe things with you, I don't know that you've got that much skill. Therefore, you have to go along and filter life through me. Idealize themselves, minimize you. And then a fourth technique that they use in brainwashing you is they have to be the final authority over all sorts of things. Basically, it's like if you have an opinion, their response to that is going to be, well, maybe that's okay, but let me tell you how it really is. Or if there's something that you're doing, that they may step right in and give you advice that you didn't ask for, or explain to you why you need to do it differently. They've got to be right, and they've got an agenda. They have expectations, and they are not at all bashful about explaining to you what that agenda consists of. And then sometimes, and this is number 5 as part of their brainwashing, they'll speak in words of persuasion and maybe even promise. For example, if you want people to respect you, here's what you need to do. And so they're trying to persuade you into their way of thinking. Or I can promise you, if you do what I tell you to do, you're going to be a whole lot better. You just need to listen to me. And so there's this, I'm going to take care of you. If you just quit being you and be a version of me, things are going to be a whole lot better. Persuasion and promise. And then a 6th ingredient, or way that they will try to brainwash you, is, and this is going to be something you'll say, oh yeah, this happens a lot. They focus heavily on your mistakes or your miscalculations. And then as they speak about those mistakes and miscalculations, they'll speak words of shame to you. How many times have you thought, man, this person just won't let go of criticisms? And the narcissist is thinking, it's not criticism, I'm just talking truth. There are just so many things about you that you need correcting. I don't know what we're going to do with you. And so lots of shaming, lots of invalidation. A 7th way that they can brainwash you is there can be an ongoing, relentless expression of their own supremacy and confidence. Over and over, there can just be the reminders. Now, do you see why I told you this? Or did you notice the way that I handled this over there? Most folks wouldn't do it like that, but I'm different. I'm special. And so they can hold on to a real supreme sense of confidence. And if you try to catch them in something wrong, they'll say, no. You're just not interpreting things right. I really know what I'm doing. And so they cannot admit faults. They cannot receive input. Why? I don't need to, because everything I do is the best. And so that's just going to be an ongoing thing. And then an 8th way that they brainwash you is there's an ongoing nitpicking about all sorts of small things. If you do something with your budget, why did you do it that way? If you handle something with the kids, don't you remember I talked with you last week and I told you that's not going to work? Or if you're in a social situation in the car going home, well, once again, let me explain to you about all the things that you did wrong. So constantly nitpicking, and what it does is it just, if you're exposed to it long enough, it can cause questions in your mind. Well, am I going to do the wrong thing, or am I going to get in trouble? Maybe I shouldn't say it this way, or shouldn't do it that way. And so a 9th way that they maintain their brainwashing is they want to keep you in a perpetual state of fear. And so these are some of the things that are a part of the narcissistic style toward you, all of it meant to keep them in a superior position and to keep you in a lower position. And like I said, the net result is, it's like, who am I? I got lost in this equation. And the narcissist is thinking, you just need to be what I tell you to be. Be a version of what I say it needs to be. So as this is something that you find yourself dealing with on an ongoing basis, there are a few thoughts that I want you to consider as you try to have more of a sense of recovery regarding this. First, keeping in mind that they like to keep you isolated, make sure you stay engaged with people who know you on a more appropriate level. Whether it's family or friends or associates that can see you and appreciate you for what you are, make sure you're getting input from someone other than that brainwashing narcissist. You want to get out of the isolation cycle. And even if the person says, I don't like you hanging around with these people, hang around with them anyway, particularly if you realize that this narcissist is just trying to speak words of insult into you. And then a second really huge thing, I'm hoping that through videos like this and others, you can learn to see behind the scenes of the narcissist's behavior. I want you to think, What does it say about a person who has to take over someone else's thinking for them, and they have to do all of the reasoning on their behalf? You know, when you come across, or when that narcissist comes across in a super controlling way, it says they're feeling terribly insecure. They don't want you to have the freedom to think for yourself. It's like, no, I'll do the thinking around here. Why? Well, because they don't want you to have a separate thought, because that would then, in their mind, be an invalidation of who they are. And so narcissists are very fear-based. They're very insecure, even though they profess to have supreme confidence. I want you to see, no, it's smoke and mirrors. Behind the scenes, there's a hurt little boy or hurt little girl who's just wanting to be a somebody, and they're doing it by squelching anybody that's in their place. And then recognize that as you break away, and this is a third thought, as you break away from that brainwashing narcissist, you may actually feel feelings of disloyalty towards that person. You know, you start thinking more independently and you decide, well, I'm just going to do what I think is right. You can have so much of that narcissist in your mind already telling you, here's what's wrong and I don't like that, that you begin to wonder, well, am I wrong? I'll give you an example. I remember speaking with a woman who had gone through a divorce with a very overwhelming husband, and then she, a few years later, met a guy that was really nice and friendly and helpful, and he would say things like, what's your opinion? Or you seem like a nice person, let's do things your way. And she would express a lot of question like, well, you know, I've been exposed so much to that invalidation by the other person. I don't know if it's okay for me to be me, and I don't know if I can trust this. And I explained to her, well, that's because you were brainwashed. You were trained to think that you don't really matter, and you do. And so rather than being disloyal to that narcissistic person, instead, let's recognize, no, I'm going to learn how to have a new and improved relationship within myself about who I am, and I'm going to let that become my new normal. So I'm hoping you can see that even though the narcissist wants to eliminate your unique belief system, they want to eliminate your confidence in who you are, that's a technique that they're using for their own not so good motivations, and you're not required to buy into the inappropriate beliefs and the inappropriate behaviors that would come along with that. Be your own separate, distinct person. That narcissist doesn't have to be the one who's in charge of how you think and how you proceed with life. That's too big of a subject to hand over to someone else, don't you think? That's something you need to take within your own self. Now, I'm hoping that you can appreciate these videos, and just know that what I'm trying to do with our Surviving Narcissism Network, so I'm trying to get you to have an awareness not just about the narcissist, but about human nature itself, and so that you can have a good appreciation about who you are and how you do life. And I like to think of us as being an online community where we encourage each other with the comments and all. I really like to hear from you, so thanks for doing that. Beneath the video, you'll see a subscribe button, and as more videos come along, you'll be made aware of it. I have some links to some books and some of my online workshops. I hope you'll avail yourselves of that. Just know that I'm pleased to be with you along your journey, and I will see you next time.